Good evening, everybody. Thank you very much for taking the time to join us for the information session Monday, February the 8th. Hope everybody is keeping well during this very challenging time. And I suppose the most important thing is to try and remain positive in the midst of many, many challenges. The purpose of this session is to update you on some general school information, share with you the feedback we've received from students, staff and parents in relation to the remote learning timetable, explain the continued additional supports that are available to you and to your son, and give you some practical advice to help you during the coming weeks. To start off, Miss Cawley has prepared a reflection. So thank you, Ms. Cawley, for preparing that reflection. Some general information. First and foremost, we've been given no notification from the Department of Education in regards to a return to school, but we do expect one and some details to emerge certainly this coming week. The state exams continue to be an ongoing topic of conversation in the media. Again, we've no final update on that, but we do intend to have the mock examinations in place. We initially would have had them either side of the midterm break, so normally they would have started this week. We still intend on having mock exams, but they will take place over a different time scale. We will try and ensure that there's as much contact time, school that in school and normal class time preserved as much as possible. In relation to the senior cycle subject choice, we will be sending out information by the end of this week. It will be just some information about how to make your senior cycle subject choice. So that's for third years and for our current TY cohort. Just to say on that, we want everybody to make subject choices. Even if you are talking about or interested in applying for the transition year program, we still expect third years, all third years, to make their subject choice. So this is a strange and stressful time for everybody. And I suppose just before we go into some of the feedback from the students, staff and parents, first of all, I just wanted to highlight that the remote timetable that we've put in place was communicated to staff and students and parents during the induction meetings in September. And the timetable is based on the feedback that we received during the previous lockdown. So every time we've tried to make additions or enhancements, it's based on your feedback. This was further highlighted at the information session on January the 11th when the remote learning timetable commenced, and the initial information suggested a return to school. So we thought that we were returning to school and it was for a short period, and we thought we'd be back by February the 1st, but however that has changed. In the meantime, we've consulted with the DES. We had a long conversation with one of the inspectors last week about our remote learning timetable and program. Hugely positive in terms of what the inspector has said. Very encouraging in terms of the collaboration that we're trying to create among staff, and most importantly, by bringing all students with us, regardless of situation in terms of Wi-Fi or devices. The ongoing efforts by staff to bring everybody, all students with us at all times. So we continue to follow their advice in relation to the provision that are being provided, and if there's any updates or changes, we will certainly follow that. I think it's important to note that one size does not fit all. There's nothing that will ever replace normal classes and face-to-face tuition. And I appreciate that every school approaches this differently, and it's not going to be the same in every situation. But as I said, we have put this in place based on the research and based on the information that we've received from all involved in the previous lockdown and since. So in terms of the student feedback, just to start, I suppose, with a few slides on what the boys think so far.
Hi, I'm Stephen Doyle. I'm a Leaving Cert student and I'm here today to talk to you about online learning. Personally, I found it hard to adjust to online learning at the start, but after a while I got used to it. Having the timetable in place is a great help and really adds structure to my school day. The videos the teachers are uploading are really helpful and you can rewatch them if needed. Something I found really beneficial was to go to bed and get up at the same time every day, and to try and go for a walk or a run before the school day starts, as it helps to clear my head and make my day more productive. Hi, I'm Stephen Doyle. I'm a Leaving Cert student and I'm
Hi, my name is Peter Meehan and I'm a fifth year in Summerhill College. My favourite thing about online learning so far is how flexible it is. You can get up at whatever time of the day you like, work to your own schedule, and even have a nice sleep in if you want, as long as the work gets done. It is also really good for revision and looking back over things you maybe didn't understand. You can pause, rewind, stop, and watch the video again as many times you need until you get what you're looking for. Another great thing about online learning is you're given plenty of time to complete assignments. You can work away at them on your own and take as long as you need. I am really enjoying online learning so far. A great thing about online learning is it keeps you busy during these long days. It makes the day go a lot faster in days that may have dragged before. It's great to not be missing out on any school, even though we're not in school. I look forward to getting back to school when it is safe and meeting all my friends again.
Hello, my name is Andrew Connell, and I am in third year. I like the online learning because it gives students the freedom to do the work when they feel most comfortable. Some students would prefer to do the work when it's uploaded, while other students would prefer to do it later on in the day. The teachers provide feedback on the work you submit so you know if what you're doing is right or wrong. And a video is uploaded every day to take you through exactly what you have to do. I find the flexibility of the timetable to be very stress relieving, as if you feel you've been working for too long, you can go out for some fresh air or just a walk to relieve yourself. Thank you.
So thanks to the students who were given some input in relation to the timetable. I'll hand you over to Mr. Danaher now, who will go through some of the student feedback that we've received from surveys conducted recently. Good evening, everybody.
Okay, thanks for that, Paul. Just the next few slides, we're going to talk about the feedback from the surveys that we've done from the students. And first of all, we look at the first pie chart that presents to us here is, are you following the school's online learning timetable? Now, of the responses there, you can see there that 32% of them are sometimes, 55.8% are all of the time, and 12% are not following the school timetable. But even the 12% are still submitting work, which means it's not necessarily following the timetable that's available to them. There may be reasons why they're not able to follow the timetable during the day. Now, that could be due to availability of internet or availability of a device and so on. But just important to note that. Next thing we looked at then is the workload, and I suppose it'd be important to note that 0 or 1 would be the lowest amount of workload and 10 would be the maximum, and you can see there that the vast majority of the students are seeing the workload as higher or towards the higher end rather than the lower one, and that's an indication of the amount of work that the students are doing and how they feel about the workload and how much work is being given by teachers. So that's a very interesting statistic as well. You can see that there probably are more responses in the upper end than the lower end as well when you look at that graph. Just in terms of feedback as well, some issues highlighted with submitting work. Just doing it and submitting, it's hard to concentrate at home. I'm finding it hard to keep motivated and continue working on top of the stress with everything happening. Some days I find it hard to complete all my homework due to time restraints. My internet keeps shutting down a lot and I can't keep up. I have 3 subject or choice subjects scheduled for the same time, so I struggle catching up on all 3. I'm finding it hard to complete all the work as I'm getting distracted a lot while I'm on my phone. And it takes me a long time to complete all the work on some subjects because there's a lot. And maybe schedule the break properly. That was something that we addressed in the change in the timetable there last week. Other comments and feedback. I find it as good as online learning can be. The timetable works well. There's a longer break. We want to have more time to make a coffee. It's good as it is. I personally think that it's quite effective. I'm getting work sent to me at the wrong timetable times and sometimes on the weekend. It's good. Start a bit later in the day. I think the online timetable is working perfectly and there should be no rush to get students back to school. So that's the feedback there from the students during lockdown.
Hello everyone, my name's Cormac Feeney and I'm a 5th year student in Summerhill College. I'd just like to talk to you about online learning and the changes it has brought over the last number of weeks. On a personal note, I found it quite beneficial because I can get that balance between my work life and my home life. I found a few things very helpful, including getting up at the same time between 9 and 10 o'clock. It just depends for different people. Some people like to get up rather early, some people prefer to get up in the latter hour of the afternoon. Other things that I found very helpful is getting out for a 2-minute kickabout, whether that be with a ball around the garden and just clear the head and fill the lungs with oxygen. It just gives you that little boost to keep going. Apart from that, I hope you all stay safe and you're keeping well.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. So just for this part of the presentation, I'm just going to run you through some of the feedback that we've had from the Parents and Guardians survey that we sent out as part of the newsletter just over a week ago. So we were just trying to ascertain a feeling for how the lockdown timetable is going. So in terms of whether or not your son is following the online timetable, 60% say that they are following it all the time and 34.5% are following it some of the time. So I suppose compared to the engagement that we would have had during the first lockdown, this does suggest an improvement in that. The second part of the survey just asked about the rating of the workload and how much you felt your son was getting. Most of you felt it was somewhere in the middle, but when you add the cumulative number up, you do see that the majority of parents do feel that it's at least middle, if not enough work, as you go towards the ratings of 6, 7, and 8. A slight disparity with the student survey, as you might expect, who felt that the workload was at about 7. This is a pleasing result because we did spend some time with students earlier in the year in their inductions. trying to make sure that they had enough skills to be able to submit work on Google Classroom. So to know that they are able to do that is quite reassuring. And in terms of the feedback that they've received on Google Classroom, the results here are perhaps slightly more mixed. And this is something that we will continue to look at to try and ensure that the students are getting enough feedback on the work that they are doing. In terms of contacting their teacher, again, the overwhelming majority of students do know how to contact their teacher. And I suppose that's really, really important in terms of the online learning model that we have, that if a student does have a question, they are able to contact their teacher through Google Classroom and get a response. And then we've just got some general comments and feedback. I won't read through them all, but they're there on the screen. And I'll talk through some of the common themes that do appear. And I will take some of the comments themselves. So the first comment there, we have a son in second year and another in transition year. We feel that interactive teaching via Zoom or Microsoft Teams will be better than the current setup. There are a number of comments that run through the next few slides that look for that. A number of comments do come through also about the boys feeling isolated and cut off from their friends in school. So I suppose when we're doing the assemblies each week, we are trying to give them suggestions on how to do that. We've talked to them about staying in contact with their friends by using technology sensibly, or forming study groups with their friends, and particularly those in Leaving Cert. It's nice to see that that the students are enjoying the lockdown challenges. We have done that, with a view to trying to keep that connection with school and to try to keep to use the word loosely, a fun aspect to everything that's going on at the moment. And again, the last comment at the bottom of the slide there, just again about some suggestion for some live interactions, which would be great for the students. Again, moving on, recordings are useful, does not replace actual interaction between a student and a teacher. A question about why there is such a difference between the delivery of remote teaching across schools. A nice comment there, thanking the staff for their dedication and hard work over lockdown. And it does take, quite a bit of time to prepare online lessons and PowerPoints to make sure that everything is up and running. There are obviously concerns about whether the course would be covered in time for the Junior Cert in May, but as of course this meeting, we're still awaiting clarity on what will happen in the June exams. The success of this current system is highly dependent on the individual student's personal work ethic and motivation. And yes, there's an element of that students have to buy into the way that we're doing things, but also I do think that with the online learning platform the way it is, they do have that opportunity to catch up if for some reason they do miss out on a class on a given day. There is a suggestion here of a weekly break time or social Zoom where students can meet and chat to their classmates. Again, this is something that we're trying to suggest that students do outside the time of school. There's a question there, or comment there about the volume of work seems to have increased. And whilst I understand that the curriculum needs to be covered, it can be overwhelming for the child in question and for others. And again, we have asked the students about workload, and we are again trying to look at it and review this as we go along. And a nice comment again at the end, I commend you and your fellow teachers for providing all the support. It's very obvious that everyone is working hard on the online system. Teachers are doing great work, well done. Again, those comments are very much appreciated. Another question there about feedback coming in some areas and not in others, and again, that's something that we will continue to look at. Perhaps the occasional live interaction with students would be good for keeping students connected. So you can see a common theme running through the comments. There are a number of comments looking for live Zoom classes or some kind of interaction, and obviously a number of positive comments about how much hard work is going into the current model. So now I'll pass you over to Mr. Donaher to continue the presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for that, Owen. And next we look at the remote learning timetable for February. Just to look back over some of the things that we've done already and just to remind people of exactly what the arrangements are, just in case you're not fully familiar with them. We've decided to put from the very beginning, to put the timetable focusing on the morning time, so that the presentations and other material is sent out in the morning. The slots for delivery of content are 20 to 25 minutes long. They can be shorter or longer depending on the type of content that's being given. That would be a recorded PowerPoint or a Loom presentation or something like that, which is distributed via Google Classroom. Now, this means, it's crucial that this means that the content that is being made available, even though it's scheduled at that time, is available after that for the students who can't access the information during the morning times. Or indeed, if the student wants to go back over the material and have a look at it a couple of times, and then maybe pose a question to the teacher over Google Classroom if they have an issue with it. As part of the content, a short task is assigned for students to complete later in the day or the week. And I suppose that's where the feedback comes in, and that's where the teachers can be assured that the students are watching the material and just completing that short task that's given. And it's important for students to engage with that so that the teachers know where they are in terms of the content that they're presenting. Students may notice on the timetable that they have a clash. There have been a few issues with this and a bit of confusion, but the way the timetable is done out, people have different options at different times. So what we had to do there was to roll out the times that the teachers would present at specific times, but then the student has the possibility to pick up that subject at a different time during the week. So that means they may have a free slot, for example, if they're doing two subjects like engineering and home economics and they're on at the same time on a Tuesday, they may look at the timetable and say, right, I'm going to do my engineering now on the time that I'm free on Wednesday afternoon, where there's an option subject there, and I'll do the home economics during the time that's allocated according to the timetable. So it's important that they keep an eye on that, and teachers have been reminded of that as well, that if the student isn't available to do the class, that they would be looking for the feedback later on in the week from the students. It's crucial that your son keeps up to date with the tasks that are set, and then it's crucial also that when he's done them, that he submits them to the teacher on Google Classroom, because that's the way we see the feedback that's coming back from students. Now, Google Classroom is the primary platform for the delivery of content. Now, it can be accessed on a smartphone. Most of you are doing this already, a tablet or a desktop, an Xbox or the PlayStation. Now, this and the mobile data information and the classroom codes and so on have all been sent to your son's school email. Also, students who have changed classes or have had difficulty with classes have been sent an invite through Google Classroom to your son to join the class or the relevant class that he may be joining or changing to. The mobile data, there is mobile data available, and the details of that are in the previous email. You can look that up. If you want to get back to us on that, you can do that as well. But there is a provision for extra mobile data for most users that's available in the lockdown period. Now, it may not be set by your son's class teacher. That's the homework or the piece of work or the actual presentation. But your son's class teacher is the one that's giving the feedback. So if you're feeding back on something that's in a presentation or so on, just be aware of the fact that the teacher that you're feeding back to is actually your class teacher and maybe not the teacher that did the presentation, and maybe put a note on that if there's something that you had a question about. Now, your son's teacher is not available online at all times during the day, and they'll revert with their comments and their work in due course. So whatever you've sent in, that will be dealt with in due course by the teacher, because they're obviously doing other recordings at particular times and attending to other things. Attendance is the responsibility of the student and their parent or guardian. We have done our best to try and make this available to everybody and to make it as convenient for everybody as possible. And we just to emphasise there that the student attendance is something that's very important, and we like to make sure that people do that and that they attend the classes that are given. The time in the afternoon is for revision and for submitting work. So if you have time in the afternoon, as well as your exercise and your well-being and so on, the timetable in the morning is short, which means that you have time in the afternoon to complete the work that's given. Now, face-to-face tuition via Zoom and Google Meet will be made available, or are being made available at the moment, to students with additional needs, also for pastoral care. Now we're developing then after the midterm break, based on the feedback that we've received, we're going to do some drop-in clinics in specific subjects, and a teacher will take those clinics and people will be able to come online and ask their questions about a specific subject. The online assemblies will take place for year groups on a weekly basis at times outside the timetable as well. Now, just to look then at the feedback from students and staff in terms of the remote learning timetable. Overall, we've seen the standard of engagement over the previous lockdown has increased dramatically. The standard of work is excellent. Some really, really good work coming back from the students. It's very focused on teaching and learning. We don't have the disruption of Wi-Fi, the device, and negative behaviour and so on, which can happen with some online classes. The time sensitivity means that the curriculum is being covered very effectively. The bank of resources that are being produced at the moment, and there's a lot of them being produced, will be available to students, of course, then for revision in the future, and also for the students, for whatever reason, are not able to engage at the present time. There's also a flexibility within the remote learning timetable that we've produced, and that flexibility is for students to engage with the work at a time that suits them or a time that suits their household or their family. And going back to the Wi-Fi again, depending on Wi-Fi is not an issue. So if you don't have a live class, the class in our instance can be downloaded and it can be submitted at any time via 3G. That's if you're going to upload material to the teacher as well. Now, SIM cards, we were looking for SIM cards to be available with unlimited data, but that's proven to be difficult at the moment, but we're waiting for word on that. But again, if you refer back to the earlier point that there's unlimited data available under your broadband schemes and under your current phone plan if you make contact with Comreg, as we noted in the previous email. Dependence on devices is not an issue, same as above, like that. So if students have a small number of devices in a household, they can share them out, and our students can do the work at a later time in the day. The teacher's workload has increased in this because they're delivering content, but they're also doing the corrections and the feedback as well. So while the time is different, the timelines are different for teachers, the workload has increased significantly in that. Now, in terms of supporting your son with remote learning, when you think of all the things that we've gone through, I suppose the first thing to do is to try and keep him in a good sleeping pattern, get him up early if you can, and encourage him to log on to his morning classes where that's possible in your house. Encourage him to make sure that he watches the full video before answering any questions or completing the tasks set. Because we've had questions from students where something has been mentioned or a particular concept has been explained and the student maybe has skipped over that section of the video and went straight to the tasks. So just important to watch the full video. Again, if you don't understand something, watch it again. See if you can pick it up the second time. Ask him what the class was about and whether he understood what was covered. Is something that you can do to support your son, and maybe even look at it with him if you get time, or if there's a particular part that he doesn't understand, that you might be able to look at it yourself and see if he could show you where he was having the problem. Ensure that he takes regular breaks as per the timetable. There's a timetable to break there. We've changed the timetable. There's a half-hour break, and we've got the half-hour classes, and then there's a half-hour break from 11 to half 11. And make sure that he gets exercise and fresh air, and that he's not sitting in front of the screen all the time. It would be advisable, if you could, to sit down and look through the work that he has submitted to his teachers on Google Classroom. It might be helpful for him to record in his school journal, just like his homework, what the homework normally would be, and which would make it easier for you to monitor what he's doing. And if he's just watching the videos and not submitting the answers or the tasks on Google Classroom, that would be an issue then in terms of his engagement. In terms of his well-being, to support your son, to emphasise the need for him to remain positive and calm, and I suppose to realise that this will all pass and we will eventually get back to school. To encourage your son to remain connected with his friends in a safe way using the technology, but maybe to make sure that he has shut off time in the evening and maybe put that phone away at night time. To encourage your son to get regular exercise and fresh air, and maybe to take the console, that's the games console, out of his hand and put a book in it. Maybe teach him how to cook a meal or give him jobs around the house. Just things to keep your son going. We have a little video on that in a few minutes as well. Just other factors to consider that we're on our end. There's a complete lack of clarity at the moment on what the arrangements are for state examinations. We don't have any information even as of today. So that's very frustrating for us and very frustrating for students and yourselves as well. There's a lack of clarity on when we're going to return to school, and we all understand why that's the case, but it's still nonetheless difficult to deal with that. There's also massive concerns over the well-being of students, and also, you know, full days in front of a screen and then homework to do on top of that. They're things that we have to think about as well for our students, and how they're getting on with this type of interaction, this type of learning.
We recently had a webinar by Jigsaw, our past pupil, Dr. Joseph Duffy, and we really want to thank the Parents Association for organising that particular webinar. One of the key things that kind of came up in terms of advice during this time is the 5-a-day.
We all know that eating 5 or more portions of fruit and vegetables every day is good for our physical health. But did you know there are 5 things we can do every day to support our mental health too? Connect. Spend time with friends or family. Talk. Relationships matter. Be active. Go for a walk or a run. Step outside, get some fresh air. Exercise makes you feel good. Take notice. Look up. Be aware of the world around you and of what and how you are feeling right now. Keep learning. Try something new. Take up an instrument. Try a new recipe. Join a group, learn to dance. Give. Do something nice for a friend or for a stranger. Thank someone. Give them a smile. Be kind.
So I just wanted to pass that on. I think it was a very important guidance in terms of during this very difficult time. Again, just a reminder of the supports that are available to you and your son. If you need to borrow a Chromebook, please don't hesitate to make contact with the school. If you have any further concerns about how your son is getting on, if you think that someone needs to touch base with him either academically or from a pastoral point of view, we are available. Our staff have been meeting regularly with a number of students via Google Meet and Zoom to touch base with them, to try and encourage them and keep them motivated. So if you are concerned, please do email us, info@summerhillcollege.ie, and a member of staff will be in touch. And as it says on the screen, please email. Don't be afraid to give us a shout. Finally, we need your support now more than ever, working together to keep each other safe. Please continue to encourage your son to follow the COVID guidelines to keep everyone safe so that we can return to our normal lives sooner rather than later. We ask you to continue to reinforce this message with your son. So before we go to Q&A, again, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to put them in the chat function and we'll try our best to answer them now. So the chat function is at the bottom of your screen, so don't be afraid to type it in. But before that, I'll hand you over to Pádraig Cawley for the last word in terms of...
Hello, my name is Pádraig Cawley. I'm a 5th year student here in Summerhill. Over the course of lockdown, I have found online learning effective. Of course, it's not the same. The schools are closed and we're at home, but it's vitally important that we focus on the positives. We're still able to learn. We've been given a timetable which provides us with structure, and the structure gives us a sense of normality, which is vitally important at the minute. We're able to get up in the morning, log on to our computer, see the work that's being assigned, and work on it. If we're stuck on something, we can just play back the video or the PowerPoint that's been provided. And in my view, this is a positive that's come out of online learning. So if we just focus on the positives for now, we won't find it until we're back at school.
So thanks to Pádraig, and thank you for joining us this evening. As I say, if you have any questions, you can type them into the chat function and we'll do our best to answer them now. If not, please don't hesitate to email us at info@summerhillcollege.ie or phone us on 071 91 60311. Please get in touch if there's something that you need help with.